Hi friends, this is a video to help you get started with the Upcycle T-shirt project. So the first thing you're going to need to do after you gather whatever t-shirt or t-shirts you're going to use is start cutting. So there's a couple ways to cut a t-shirt. You can start at the top where the neckline is and cut all the way to the bottom of the t-shirt to make some really long strips, especially from the top of the shoulder down. Or if you're making a smaller project like a bracelet, you might just want to go around the t-shirt, sort of around the short side where you're starting on one side toward the bottom and going around to the other side. And then you'll have strips that are about the length of the front of the shirt, and you'll trim the ends where there's a seam so it's not lumpy. So thinking about if you want longer strips to make a headband or shorter strips to make bracelets from will help you know which way you want to cut your shirt. Once you figure that out, cut your strips so that they're about, 1.5 or 2 inches wide. You could also experiment with doing really narrow ones or really wide ones to get different effects. There's a lot of material in a t-shirt, so you'll be able to experiment and probably make a few things. Once you have that all set, you can begin to braid. I'm going to show you how to get started with a regular 3-strand braid in case you haven't done that before. I just noticed this is a little bit jagged. I'm going to give that a trim. It's okay if your strips aren't perfect because this type of fabric kind of naturally rolls up on itself, so it'll hide most little imperfections, but that was a little too much. So we'll do a simple 3-stranded braid to get started here. I like to begin by taping my strips down really securely. Make sure that if you are using tape, you're on a craft surface where the tape won't stick to it and hurt the top of the table. Or see if you have tape at home like this is painter's tape, so when I peel it up, it won't hurt the finish or the paint on my table. So make sure it's really firm. Sometimes it's nice to use 2 pieces and even tape over the knot itself so that it's less likely to come out as you give it some pretty sharp tugs to make a tight braid. So a 3-strand braid is going to start like this: one middle section, a left section, and a right section. We're going to braid by bringing, let's try that again. This was not in the right place. Okay, a middle section, a left section, and a right section. And you're going to begin by bringing the right section over, moving the middle over where it was before, and then doing the left section. You'll start to notice a pattern. We're moving from the right section inward, and then the left section inward, and we're doing that over and over. As I braid, I like to bring it up off the table just a little bit so I can make sure that it's pretty tight. A little more even. So go ahead and braid the length of your strips. I like to leave a few inches at the top, like you saw up here above the knot, and then also at the bottom because that gives me lots of options for finishing it. So finish up my braid here. It's going to go outside the camera a little bit because my strips are pretty long, and then I'm just going to knot it like so while I size it. Okay, I have knots, I have a braid. It's pretty stretchy because it's tight. I'm going to take these off, save them for later to reuse, and now I have this length. So this is clearly the bracelet length, right? This wouldn't be long enough to go around my head for a headband, although it is stretchy. I would have needed to use the really long strips for that. But whether you're making a headband or a bracelet, these same ideas still apply. So now I have my length. So what am I going to do with it? Well, I'm going to make sure that it goes around my wrist, okay, first of all. That way I'll know if it's too long, too short, if I need to make other changes. This is a little bit loose. I could probably make it a little bit shorter. So I'm going to take my knot out a little bit, just loosen it enough to adjust it. There we go. And then I need to decide, how do I want to attach these ends? I could take off both of these knots and knot it together. I could take each strip and make a knot on the other side with it, finishing it up like that. And then I would tie each of these loose ends together, which would make a kind of interesting set of knots at the bottom. There's lots of different things you can do. If you like the look of it, you can take these and tie them into really tiny little bows. It's a little bit of a challenge to do, but you could definitely do that too. And then trim off other long pieces that you don't need. There's lots of different ways to do it. And you can think about it. Is it for you? Is it for someone else? If it's for someone else, what kind of style do they like, right? What's going to work out well for them? In this case, I'm just going to finish it with a bow. Trim my ends off that I don't need. Make sure I have it sized one more time to make sure it fits the way I want. It fits pretty well. And then I have completed my first project. So for these, you could take multiple braids. You could make 2 or 3, knot them together at the end to make a really wide bracelet. You could do the same with headbands. You can do lots of colors or one color. It's really up to you. This is just the very basics on how to get started with your own upcycled t-shirts, bracelets, or headbands. I hope you have fun and make something awesome.